All right, it is now 4:34 on Monday, June the 17th, and we will be calling this meeting to order. The BEDC Board reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or call executive session or order of business at any time prior to this adjournment. So the meeting's been called to order. Do we have any public comment today?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, very good. We'll go ahead and get started here. I know we've got a lot of folks in here to talk about the Smithville Workforce Training Center, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So we'll go with the 3A, the workshop, the development cycle and importance of collaboration. And so, Sylvia, if you'll take it away for us.
Thank you, Chair. Really, this presentation stemmed from a conversation that the Executive Committee had and also comments by Board Member Lee regarding site selection and how that all happens to play in to how we do our work both with the EDC and city as partners. So this is a slide deck that's going to be focused on growth, and so you'll see some of the growth analogies in there. I think it's kind of cheesy. My slides are kind of cheesy, but, you know, I was looking for some humor in some of this. So today we're going to talk about, discuss the methods of entry. There's all kinds of ways that we see a project and how it comes to us. Site selection is just one of the many points of entry. I'm going to talk about who's on first. There's always a discussion on who's doing what and why are they doing those things. I want to talk about the handoff. When does the project get handed off to the city and who's managing the project and how do we prevent the big failures? The tools that we have in some of our toolboxes and who our supporting partners are. So this starts off as a seed, right? There's an idea from an individual. There is speculation by a development, by a company, by a developer. It can come to us from a nonprofit. It can come to us from another governmental organization. Some examples of that are the food pantry. Some examples of that are Bastrop County itself trying to do an expansion of their public safety facility. It can come in the form of a phone call to the BEDC or to other. It comes in the form of an email from the website. It comes as an appointment request by one of the officials, one of the elected or appointed officials. It comes as an early assistance request, just folks asking questions, interested in when a building goes up for lease in the downtown. Specifically, folks get super interested and they want to know everything that they can do in that particular building. And it can also come as a referral from a political body seeking some sort of project, and it has some sort of influence. So if you think about the portal of entry, you can see there are many, many, many different points of entry. And so part of our job is to manage how those points come in and make sure that the information everybody is receiving is consistent. Nothing hurts my heart the most than to have a small business come in. They've already done their lease. They're already ready to hang out their shingle, only to find out that the property's not zoned correctly. There's a school nearby. You can't do what you want to do. But they've already invested a significant portion of their savings into a project that will not be able to come to fruition without some pretty significant legislative challenges. And by legislative, I mean an amendment required by Planning and Zoning, Zoning Board of Adjustment, the City Council, this board, one of many, many entries into the system. So feeding the seed, right? Who's on first? And the answer to that is, unfortunately, as attorneys like to say, it depends. Is the facilitator, the BEDC role in this particular instance is as a facilitator. They bring the right entity to the table, and they often act as a translator. It is, I'd like to say planning and development speaks three different languages. They speak planning, they speak building, and they speak engineering. Three languages that do not necessarily cross the lines. So the BEDC role in this instance, and I'll use the example of the movie studio. When the movie studio came in and we began talking site information, the BEDC role is facilitating the engineering discussion, facilitating the infrastructure discussion as it relates to public utilities, and then also it's trying to translate what assets and information are going to be required from the city to make certain determinations to make the project come to fruition. The city's role is we need to provide information and information rich very early on. We need to provide assistance as it relates to site and site plan. Right now, we are limited in ultimate capacity that some of our water and wastewater lines, for example, have the availability to serve. And so some of these projects need feasibility studies. We need to determine how many living unit equivalents can we actually serve in that project. A lot of these projects are so far down the road by the time they come to us. They've done their homework, they've done their due diligence, and ultimately they end up in Aqua territory or they end up in Corex territory, and those other utility providers may or may not have the ability to serve. Again, the BEDC begins to translate information. City can't serve you, what is the alternative? Are there alternative rules and regulations we can follow to still get the project to fruition? And we talk a lot about the viability of the selected site. Again, oftentimes they've already selected a site, they think it's great, and I just use Accutronic as a perfect example, or folks that come into the park who want to do something specific, and one of our, Accutronic wanting to do a specific site that wasn't going to fit the particular site. We ended up amending, we gave them 3 extra acres, we ended up amending their site plan, they needed to do on-site detention. And so again, from a facilitation standpoint, there's a lot of going back and forth at this point. At this point, that seed can die. It can very well not be fed the nutrients, the information. It very well may not be a viable project, and this little seed will never bear any fruit in this whole process. So here comes the feeding the nutrients, right? Information, the maps, all of the plans. It comes from outside sources when they're talking about needing specific tools, i.e. a public improvement district or tax increment reinvestment zone. Who needs to be at the table? The site selectors, they're looking for road, rail, and air access, for example, and which one of our sites offer that? What is the product they're trying to offload? What is the industry they're trying to serve? Do we have agreements with neighboring cities? Do we have an agreement with Bastrop County or the ISD on specific industry they are trying to attract? Again, super, super information rich as we're feeding this particular business idea. So let's say we've gotten to the point that the plant has been fed, the little seed has now broken ground. So there is a handoff that happens at this particular point. The BEDC stays engaged, but they really stay engaged as a facilitator and a collaborative problem solver. I'll use the example of MOCA. When MOCA came on and needed to be finished by a particular point in time, and in our linear process, there was no way for MOCA to meet their established timeline. They met with me, they met with the EDC director at the time, they met with the mayor and the chair, and we worked out a concurrent process so that they could get to the end of the line. At that point, the chair and the director know what's needed from the company, they know what we're going to need to get it to the finish line, and at that point it becomes the city project management side, the development services side, to make sure we're receiving that information, staying in contact with the BEDC, and ensuring that all of those pieces that we need are moving toward a complete end. You'll see a timeline specific to MOCA that we'll talk about in a little while under commitments on how we have moved that project down the continuum and even removed some items so that the project can still get to an August timeframe. Sometimes that little plant and that little seed needs additional nutrients. That means they may come back to the BEDC for additional dollars. They may come back to the BEDC for additional land or other commitments. And, they still remain a point of contact. And so we're working with the BEDC staff to get whatever it is that particular project needs. And so for some of the things in the industrial park, that may mean an additional extension of water or utilities or some other. That may mean a collaboration with Bluebonnet Electric or BP&L on how we're going to provide information. Or that may be as simple as putting them in contact with the gas company who has the easement there on what is or is not allowed at that particular site. So it's gotten through all of that. Now it's time for the project to grow. They now submit. We still have utility feasibility studies to go through. There's still fees to discuss. There may be some waivers that are needed. There is a shot clock that exists on the time frame for things being brought to completion. So the applicant is often asked to sign a waiver of that shot clock to make sure that it doesn't get rejected out of the system. If there is a possibility that they don't sign the waiver and there's a possibility we will not meet the 30 days, it is a project that is considered rejected. By law, we have to approve or reject, or we have to give the reasons why. So we ask all of our applicants to submit a waiver. Sometimes there's a legislative process. We may need to go to planning and zoning, we may need to go to historic landmark, all of those things. And again, this little tree that's now formed still at that point may die. It may not make it through the entire review process. And then we begin coordination with others, and others is just dependent on who the project is. That may be an engineer or an architect. This morning it was a banker. I was talking to a banker about the feasibility of a particular project and when that project would come to fruition and how much we think the development fees would be, and is there any outside assistance or support. So it's a variety of other. Outside agencies could also be TxDOT. We saw with the Gateway project, there was a traffic impact that was going to happen on Chestnut at the upper end of the project. TxDOT had not approved in or out. They had some feasibility studies they still needed to work through. So again, in a project that big, it would have required 2 in and outs, and if that was not going to be able to be met, then we would have taken them through some sort of waiver. But if there's life, health, and safety, then that project would not have come to fruition. So now that we've done all the background, the horizontal stuff, as I like to call it, now we go vertical. We're going to assume everything happened, everything was great. Now we go through the actual review process of a construction permit. And that still requires a lot of outside agencies. It still requires planning to go through, making sure the setbacks, the density, impervious cover, all of that is met. It still requires building trades to go through all of their initial evaluation. It still requires fire, water, wastewater, streets, drainage. The county may need to chime in if it's in the ETJ in our 1445. We like to have the school at the table to understand what the impact in population is to the school. And then again, at this point, there might be a variance that's requested. It might be a glazing requirement for glass. It might be a parking requirement. It might be a setback requirement. Any one of those things at this point may also still delay the growth of the project. We finally get to certificate of occupancy, and then we move into the warranty period. There's a guarantee on streets and infrastructure that is put in. The developer normally has a 1-year warranty, and we're looking to amend some of those things on the city's end so that the infrastructure that's put in has a greater lifespan and the taxpayers aren't necessarily on the hook. So the tree's planted, it's grown, it's watered, it's fed. Now what? We have performance agreements that the BEDC puts in place. And Angela has recently updated the tickler file and put those in your file with due dates and things that were due. Here comes the warranty. There is a public improvement plan agreement that the City Council would have approved on public infrastructure and what type of infrastructure and where and how much it was going to serve. And then we have reporting requirements, especially for the BEDC. If we've given any additional dollars, if we've given, the park comes with covenants itself, but if there were any additional requests that were made by the BEDC, any taxpayer reports that are available, any workforce commission reports that are available, to make sure that the project is still continuing on track and it is still doing what we said it was going to do. And in this example, that we planted a peach tree and we're not getting apples. So that's pretty much the life cycle of a project start to finish and how the city and the EDC coordinate. And it's not just the city and EDC, it's also school, it's also county, and it's also a lot of external agencies. We have Thursday meetings. So Thursdays are development days. We have a scheduled calendar. Angela sits in on those meetings as well. Anything that's coming down the pike is shared all the way around. The county and all of the other folks are also at the table, either Zoom or actually at the table to go over projects. And, we just continue this cycle over and over. For the BEDC, depends on the performance agreement. How long is this cycle supposed to continue? And when do we call a project successfully complete? So, balancing it all. So, what are the appropriate soil conditions, right? Are we business and industry friendly? Are we wanting to take a partnership approach? You need to feed what the plant needs, and that may mean incentive packages, that may mean utility or infrastructure, that may mean information and context. We may have to support a project at the governor's office on an economic development incentive request. We may have to partner with the school, as we did with Accutronics, to develop an interlocal that changes the curriculum at BISD to meet the demands of industry. And then we prune, right? We continue to touch back on the performance measures and we cut where needed, or we continue to feed the plants. And then, we harvest, right? The fruits of the plant feed the community. And we have to make sure that bad investments or trees that we don't prune and we don't harvest don't continue to ruin the future trees or the future possibilities of the park. So that's my presentation. I'm open to any and all questions.
Any questions up here? Well, thank you very much. It's nice to get a refresher on everything that goes into these things, because a lot of people don't understand the extent and the complications sometimes of taking it from inception all the way to fruition. And there are a lot of moving parts, obviously, and we all have to work together to make sure that things are going along. And there's with any type of business, there's some frustrations that come along with it, especially in the permitting. Everybody's gone through a building at some point in time, and we've all been there where it's been a little frustrating. But by working together and making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, well, we can make things happen a lot better. And like you said, we have to make sure we're choosing the right trees to grow, the right companies to come in, because we have a limited amount of land, and everybody's going crazy about trying to find, the right deal for the community and the right deal for the individual companies. All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We will now move on to an update from the Smithville Workforce Training Center. And so I don't know if Sylvia or if
Nope.
Frank's
This
going
is
to take it.
Smithville in the flesh.
All right.
Okay, how's that? Hi, I'm Janice Bruno. I'm the Executive Director for the Smithville Workforce Training Center, and I've got Alan Butler. We're going to do this in a two-part. But anyway, I thank you, Amberly. Thank you, Frank, for inviting us today. We're going to give you an informational brief, a quick update. I think we briefed you maybe 4 or 5 months ago or where we were. Alan's going to do the first part, and I'm going to give you the planting the seed piece. Where we're going to show you a vision so that you know it's what we're thinking down the road. So, Alan?
I'm Alan Butler with the Smithville Workforce Training Center. I'm the Bastrop and County Coordinator. Appreciate you guys having us back again today. Try not to get too redundant. There will be a few things here we'll cover today that we probably talked about last time. Just a general overview of where we are, and this is very specific to the Reinvest and the ARPA grant that we've received from Bastrop County, as well as the money and kind of how it correlates to what we're doing specifically in Bastrop County. So there will be some overlap to what we've already briefed on previously, and then we'll kind of give you the grand vision of some opportunities that are out there that we can maybe pursue collaboratively. So at the Workforce Training Center, as Janice likes to say, our mantra is engage, empower, employ, because that's what we do. Just kind of a quick overview of a lot of different industry partners that we work with, including, hopefully working with the EDC here, Bastrop Chamber, and multiple other partners throughout Bastrop County, specifically with what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we do have several other folks with the Workforce Board, Texas Workforce Commissions, Texas Mutual. There's tons of organizations that we have already outreached with and have some kind of collaborative effort with. So we're growing rapidly monthly, I would say, as far as the partners and the connections that we're making across the region, but also here in the Bastrop County area. We've got over 15 educational partners that we do partner with to offer programs and opportunities to folks in Bastrop County specifically. These are just a few of the ones that we work with that are of note. So You know, there are, aside from working with maybe like ACC, you know, everybody kind of thinks about that relationship, but we do have several other outside institutions and organizations that we've either brought into the community that weren't previously working here, or we're working with them now, or creating efforts to actually attract them to the community. And a couple of the ones on this list have actually expressed having facilities within the county to open up full schools to come to the area. We have a ton of employer partners. I mean, there's well over 40 that we work with that are just commitment letters. So in this Reinvest grant that we have through the Good Jobs Challenge, one of the things that we're asked or required to do is try to go out and get an employer commitment letter for employers that meet the list of the demand jobs that we're going or that we're pursuing. So we get employers to sign up and do those commitment letters. One of the challenges we have with that model is we're only able to fill out an employer commitment letter if they meet some certain criteria within the grant. So there's definitely partners that we work with that are beyond that 40 number that we just can't actually document due to the restrictions of the grant, but we still do collaborate with them, and they do offer resources and job opportunities to our community. We do have our board of directors. We're growing. I think we have a couple seats left on the board, but our executive board chair is Jill Strebe. Treasurer is Joanna Morgan. Willie Culberson's our co-chair, and Mike Oliver is our board secretary, so that's our executive board. You might know some of these folks. And then we've got a few other, Charlene, Jace Jones, Trevor, Missy, Jenny Jensen. I think that's a typo there. Sorry about that. And then Daniel Herna, Jake LeBlanc, and we recently acquired Frank on our team, so we're excited to see where that goes. So. And then big one here for us that we just picked up was Betty Voigt with CapCog. So that'll be hugely instrumental in us growing and getting the right connections going forward. So I think we I'm confident in our board going forward. We have a great team. And then some of our staff members, you may or may not know all of them. Janice Bruno is our executive director. She's already introduced herself. Ramon Rivera is our Caldwell County coordinator. I think he's here in the back. Myself. And then Marcia Chabot takes care of our Fayette and Lee County area. And then we've got a great accountant HR person in Lorena. And we've got our intern here, which helps us put this presentation together today. And then Miriam, Ronnie, Becky, Rebecca, and Emmy all come to help out with case management at the office and really guiding and coaching the participants or students that come through the doors. So kind of get through the fluff here, but of pretty much where we're really focused and targeted on and the programs that we offer through our program is really based on the top 10 or 25. There's a top 25 list within the Texas Workforce Commission that all the 27 workforce boards have identified. These are the top needs and jobs in the state. Of the list in front of you, almost everything on this list, with the exception of one, which is automotive service technicians and diesel engine specialists, we're actively developing a program. Everything else on this list we're already doing, we're implementing, we're already training, and we have programs related to that. So when it comes to the top 10 occupations in the state, we are actively offering programs right here in your community to help students get into high demand jobs, whether they can go anywhere in the state. More specifically, interestingly enough, all of these things on the list are something that are of need when you drill down with that data further, that they are high demand jobs in Bastrop County specifically. I don't think we have a slide on that, unfortunately, but they are. So we kind of recap what we talked about last time, as some of the things we do offer was the healthcare and allied health. Again, a lot of things on this list you just saw on the list previously. So we are trying to target those specific areas, and I don't like to read bullet points. So if you want me to go over something specific, please let me know, because I don't like just reading slides. You guys can see that. But again, the skills trades, electricians, plumbing, welding, HVAC, those are the areas that we're definitely really focused on due to the grants, but there are other areas in construction, especially carpentry. They did make that top 25 list. There's a huge demand for that in our region. That's another program we would like to build out. Again, there's some conversation about prevailing wage issues there. I think we have some solutions to overcome that. That's just some more collaborative efforts that need to be had amongst the community to get there. And commercial driving license and CDL, I would say besides our CNA program, CDL driving is probably our number 2 program of how many students we've produced through this program and have been successful in placing jobs and getting jobs right away, especially with the nature of it being streamlined. It's a 4-week program, start to finish, to where students are coming in within 4 weeks. They're behind a seat of a truck driving, and they're getting paid pretty well in most cases with local employers in the region. IT is something that we've got it implemented. We've got folks in training. We're still working on some of these employers are hard to find because we don't have a ton of IT companies here. Most of these people are working remote or hanging out on their couch, so they're a little bit more difficult to track down. There's very few IT companies here in Bastrop County that we're able to really reach out and speak with. But like the school district, and there are other jobs. The city, there are jobs for folks in these areas. So we just need to work on collaborating a little bit more on how we outreach and really identify what the needs are in the community when it comes to IT training, and how do we get folks those jobs instead of having them ship off to Samsung or something up the road, and how do we keep that in our community. Banking is another one that we've been really working hard on and collaborating with multiple folks in the finance industry and overcoming some challenges and obstacles with training, but we're making progress, and our bookkeeping courses are underway. We have several folks working with the bookkeeping right now that are enrolled with ACC summer program, so we just kind of kicked that off here beginning of May, or end of May, beginning of June, depending on what course they wanted to sign up for. And we're still working with these banks to get the loan processing and credit counseling stuff underway. So we have a program through Texas Tech that we're hoping to get that rolling here in the fall. And then with ARPA funding specifically, which was separate from that Reinvest program that we briefed on last time, this is the money that was given to the Workforce Training Center by the ARPA funds from Bastrop County specifically. So areas that we weren't able to cover under Reinvest, we've used ARPA funding for, and those high-demand jobs, certified nursing assistants, the CNAs. As we mentioned before, we have well over 200 folks that have completed that program. All of them are employed. They get job placement, and it's a work and learn, earn and learn style program. And we have done some phlebotomy. Again, there's a opportunity there. I'll say it again. We're oversaturating the market with underwater basket weaving with training phlebotomy, because it seems like there's a lot of other organizations that are training in that. We don't have a whole lot of jobs here. So looking into potentially working with you guys as far as like bringing in some kind of plasma center or something like that, where we can, that's an opportunity where we can attract folks in the medical field in our community. It will create jobs. It will create a pipeline for us to get folks as that stepping stone into the medical field. Folks can go donate plasma, have a little extra spending money, pay some bills. So something you might want to look into. I think we have a lot of opportunity that's not tapped into there. Firefighting, EMT is another space that we're doing a lot of training in. We've just, how many classes are we at? 2 or 3 now with the firefighters? 2. We've graduated 2 firefighters with the 2 firefighter courses with the academy, and some of those are getting hired at the local ESDs here. And EMT and paramedics and advanced paramedic training, that's an ongoing process for us. Another high demand job. Security officers, there's a huge need for that in our region specifically. And we've been working closely with getting folks into that kind of training and getting them job placed. And then again, we talked about kicking off this automotive technician program, and we're in the preliminary phases of getting that going. So it kind of all goes back to a little bit of what we talked in the previous briefing with you, but our target demographics, definitely for the grant, 73% of the grant is supposed to be one of these target demographics. So women in the skills trades, people of color, Hispanic, Latinos, minorities, folks with disabilities, immigration, again, and then like the low-income sector. So those are kind of some of the target demographics that we're really approaching. We're doing well with numbers on this so far. And ARPA and Reinvest both have those same parameters. But the interesting statistic here to take away so far of what we've been able to do to date is we've served 660 folks. 432 of those have come through the door, have been classified as low income or of some kind, right? So they meet those qualifications of the definition of low income. And of that, so that makes up about 65%, almost 66% of what we've served in the community to get those folks that have come from a low income status and get them into a prevailing wage job, which is $18 an hour or more, to elevate their status and their opportunities. Our projected goal with these grants is 50%, so we're doing pretty well so far, given the numbers with both of those grants. I think and then there's some other opportunities we're looking at pursuing with the Texas Workforce Commission. There's a lot of various different grant opportunities, and we can collaborate with business owners, consortiums of businesses, as well as the EDCs, the chambers, and just folks in the community to try to really learn, understand a little bit more what the direction and the pathway is. But there's some other opportunities we can go after. I don't need to read them all off, but that's all my portion. I'll let Janice take over unless you guys have any questions about my portion specifically. Great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to plant the seed. This is just a tiny seed, okay? So we've got a vision for the UT campus that's out at the Busher State Park, and I'm going to cover that a little bit for you if you're not familiar with the old MD Anderson UT Park campus. So the vision would be to create a regional technology, skilled trades, educational rural hub. In other words, it would be an educational epicenter surrounding the rural area. So we would service all the counties to this epicenter. We'd help institutions to expand so if they want to, such as Cybertech, South University, Blinn, Austin Community College. We could guarantee employers a local, robust workforce. And of course, everybody knows workforce development is economic development. Just real quick, Stan Gertis has been working with us on this, and the way I got involved was Adina Lewis told me, Janice, you got to get on top of this. So this property, which you're going to see here in a minute, has been vacant for 2 years, okay? So basically, it's the heart of Texas. It's easily accessible to current students and potential students. It's near the major cities. It's close to partnered schools and colleges, and it serves all the counties, is what the vision would be, okay? So right now, you're going to enjoy a short video of the campus with no sound. Pretend 50 years ago, no sound. And if you've never been out there, Stan is trying to get us right now a tour, so in-person tour, so that we can actually go into the facilities and check out the buildings and so forth. It has to be used for education. So I will tell you that in the last probably 6-7 months, reaching out to the folks that have to be reached out to, the real estate people, the folks that are actually in charge of this campus, we haven't actually linked up with that right person yet. So we're trying, and maybe some of you might know, Stan, and through his office, is trying to figure out who is the right person to talk to. But this is what it looks like. It's on 60 acres. And I'm going to cover a little bit about each building, but it's actually a beautiful, beautiful campus where it's well maintained. I mean, there's still maintenance guys that are out there that take care of it. Whoops. So here's a little bit the layout. Okay, originally, it was used for cancer research, but it was used primarily for mice. I guess they had 30,000 mice out there at one time. And they have 4 laboratories. There's it's not a small conference center, but there's a nice conference center with an administrative building. It's got a receiving office, an animal facility, a physical plant, and a fitness area. So like I said, it's on 60 acres within Busher State Park. Busher State Park runs about 777 acres. It was created as a science park, and it's in a rural area. There's opportunities for some other research because there's a research station nearby. And I don't want to cover all of the infrastructure, but something here is pretty interesting. The city of Smithville provides the sewer. It's already got 10 gigabyte, so it's already got the fiber feeds that are out there for the internet and so forth. And it's got storage capacity for water, and all the buildings are connected to emergency power. So it's got a lot of nice features that, like I said, are supposedly all maintained and solid infrastructure. Here's some of the key buildings. So there's over 160,000 square feet already that's built, ready to be moved into. Some minor modifications where they used to take care of mice. So this is the lab building highlights. You can see some of the photos. They've done a lot of renovation throughout the years. This particular building here was used for animals. It was called the Griffin Animal Facility. Laboratory 1 was back in 1977. Dr. Jim Allison apparently worked there. It's a large lab. Laboratory 2, Laboratory 3, Laboratory 4. I want to say in the front part of this laboratory is the conference center. Okay, so that was really quick, right? But this is what's out there, okay? It's just sitting there. It's been sitting there vacant for 2 years. So I bring up this last slide because this company here, Cybertex Institute, which is out of Austin, Texas, we've been partnered with them now for about the last 6 months. We started to talk with them in December. Right now, Cybertex Institute is in about 18,000 square feet of space in Austin. They teach licensed vocational nursing, medical assistant, network engineering. Well, they went up to Killeen, Texas, and they went ahead and opened an HVAC, and now they want to do CDL training up in Killeen. They've come down to Smithville. They've looked at a 10,000 square foot space behind the Born Again Emporium. In fact, they're coming on their 4th visit tomorrow. They would like to move the institute to Smithville to teach licensed vocational nursing, network engineering, medical assistant, which those are all the things that are on our list. Those are all the high demand jobs. We're like, fantastic, we love to have you. Now, I showed them the vision of eventually, hey, would you like to go work, have this institute in a park? You know, of course they would. But in the meanwhile, they're looking at some space in Smithville to bring their training to us. And we want to do that with South University was the other college that we're talking to. They're going to come visit this week on the 20th, and they want to do physical therapy. So, you know, the vision would be that you'd have different universities could come to this Busher State Park UT Center, but they would be doing different kind of things. Would be like, that would be the epicenter. They'd be all different types of education. Now, would they all play together? Well, I don't know. We're just planting the seed. So thank you very much for your time tonight. I did want you all to at least see that vision and be thinking it over, because I'm sure you're going to have some great ideas too. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That really is a very nice facility. I've been out there a couple of times myself, and it's, I'm glad that people are looking at it because it's such a nice place to go to waste. You sit there empty for 2 years. So it looks like you've got a lot of things already worked out. It's kind of interesting that you're having difficulty in finding who the real estate person is that's responsible for this.
Yeah, I went to a guy named Rick Thames. He's the first guy I sent an email to, and I CC'd Dina, I CC'd Stan. And then there was a second woman that I got the information to send her, and I sent that on Fridays. This has been going on since January, to find that key person. Even all the way, well, we started in Austin at the Board of Regents, okay? So I started there and went all the way up the chain, and I never got one reply except for one of the vice chancellors. But she was so new that she wasn't sure. Well, then we heard you got to go to Houston, find out who the realtor was, because they were going to sell this property. I think you might know that, Ron. So we now found a realtor, this guy named Mr. Thames. I never got a response. So now we sent another email to this other lady, and hopefully I'll hear something. But every time I send it, I CC Stan and I CC Adina, because they're the ones that are saying, hey, let's push this, let's push this. So I think it's a good partnership doing this with the city of Bastrop, because, you know, we are your workforce training center, and we can produce qualified people for you while you bring these companies in. We can provide the people to do that. So I do want to just say thank you to Jasmine Huerta. If you're not familiar with the Home to Texas program, University of Texas, this is a fantastic program. You get an intern for 3 months. It costs about $1,500, and she actually put the whole presentation together for me, and she said she'd never used PowerPoint. She only used Google. but she did a great job. So I just want to recognize Jasmine for putting this together for us. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
Janice, could you explain what your vision would look like as far as collaborating with the Bastrop EDC? I know that there was some discussion.
Well, we
with Alan.
definitely want your ideas for this because this is in Bastrop County. So as far as collaborating with you all, you know, I'm not here to say, I need money or anything like that. I just want to make sure you're our partner in this planning of this seed so that we can say, hey, if we go for grant funding or something like that, we can get a letter of support from y'all saying, you know, you're interested because you're in the county and you're 12 miles away. And I think it's a good thing that we partner and collaborate on this project together.
Yeah, we can definitely have the discussion on the letter from us on the support of this kind of stuff. You know, Frank is now on the board, on your
Yes, he
board of
is.
directors, so you're going to have direct access to bringing questions back and forth and
Thank
things
you.
like that. John?
Yeah, I'm not clear on one point for the campus. So there is a building, obviously, it was previously used, it's been empty for 2 years, but then the concept of it's owned by someone or something, and you would like to use it, but,
It's owned by UT.
okay, so it's owned by the University of Texas System.
Yeah.
What would that process look like?
I
for
have no
using it?
idea, to be honest.
Okay, would you have to buy it? Would you have to,
Well, they had it for sale. In fact, at one time, I want to say Neuralink looked at it, is what Adina told me. But then when they brought the guys out there on a side story, they couldn't get Uber or DoorDash, so it was too remote. We'd love to have Neuralink out there. That would have been perfect, right? So no, none of that. And in fact, Double D Ranch came and spoke with us out of Houston, right? And I had showed this to Double D because they want to, you know, they're right outside of Smithville and they have a foundation. And the question she asked is, well, how are you going to sustain it? I said, I have no idea. I'm going to figure it out. I mean, so when I say we're planting the seed, we're just throwing the idea out there right now. Who knows what UT will say? Maybe they'll just want it all to themselves. I don't know. I'm hoping they'll want to share.
got it.
That would be the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I add one more point to that, John? I think it's important to the conversation. So last legislative session, the University of Texas had explored options with this particular piece of property. In last legislative session, the Texas legislature did deem that this property could be used for anything that was to support the UT mission, which would be basically education. So right now, from our understanding, it was at one point being tried to be sold. The legislature then came back and said, it's not for sale, it needs to be used for anything that supports the UT mission. So that's a crucial component to all of what we're trying to actually do and get to the right connections and the right people. So maybe that real estate person isn't the right contact. We're just trying to elevate it enough to get somebody's attention that there's some interest here, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay. All right, we will now move on to 4B, approval of the meeting minutes from the special board meeting of May 8th, 2024, and regular BEDC board meeting of May 20, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good, the motion carries. All right, 4C, we're going to be receiving a financial report for the period ending May 2024.
For May 2020, you can see that we have, we're pretty strong in our budget. We have received 75% of our sales tax for the year. We should be around 66%, so that's a good number. And we were down in May, so we're doing really well. Personnel, well, I'll move to the next slide while we can see our month end. The sales tax, oh, thank you. The sales tax is down
actually from projected and from actual for last year, if you take a third of last year's. But June was up. We've already received it, and it was up for the year or for the month. And so I think maybe there was just some people that paid late, or some businesses that paid late. We had a third payroll in May for personnel, and contractual services. You can see that our May actual is less. Those are those big numbers. The Blakey, downtown lighting, intersection improvements, and Agnes. And so in June, there will be some money moved over because that money has been spent, and it'll be reimbursed to the city of Bastrop. Here is just a list showing you our sales tax by month. This is the same as, this will not change until next year, but this is still showing our restricted fund balance. The business park improvements, this is Financial Way. These expenses are due set in 304 construction. That's how much has been expended. There will be some more coming through, a little bit more coming through as we finalize this project. And then these are our cash deposits for the end of March. That's all I got for you, unless you have any questions.
All right, we will move now to 4D, an update on the BEDC funding commitments. Sylvia?
Thank you, Chair. The list remains very similar to what you've seen in the last couple months. We've not added a new project yet. In fact, we have projects that are getting ready to fall off. Fiber in the business park and the city water funding are getting ready to fall off. Blakey Lane extension, as we move closer to 100% design, will also fall off. And I'm sorry you can't see all of the numbers on the screen. They're on your handout. The Jackson extension was canceled. Financial Way, we've received the final billing, and we have an invoice to MoCA for half that would come at project fruition, I guess, when they get ready to put a shovel in the ground. We've completed Project Third Arrow, which is now Accutronics. We are discussing Project Fiesta this evening in executive session, and TA Bastrop, Technical Adhesives, which used to be known as Project Superglue. I didn't name these projects, by the way. Project Superglue they're underway. We expect them to have a certificate of occupancy by late summer. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
Sylvia, let me go back for just a second, please. Did you say that we've already invoiced MoCA for
Yes.
their portion? Did I hear you say they're going to pay it when they put the shovel in the ground?
So, no, the performance agreement is at the end, and Charlie, you want to?
You're correct.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it's at the end, it's subtracted from
The 900. Mhm. Sorry, that was a little. Yep. So there's technical adhesives going up pretty quickly. And then tomorrow, we have the part one of the economic equity. This is the session led by Crystal Grimes, myself, and Bastrop EDC. It's a four-part series that begins to talk about small business ownership, small business retention, and we're not just starting at the how to write a business plan and how to go get a loan. There are multiple steps that have to happen way before then, and one of the bankers is smiling at me right now because before you even show up at her desk, there are some things you should have considered. And so we'll be covering that through a series of four sessions, I'm sorry. It's tomorrow at the city library. What's interesting is I've been meeting with local banks, and Roscoe is a partner, and met with First National and met with Frontier Bank today also. inviting the banks to become more involved as we begin to perhaps turn out small businesses. How do we keep things local and in the community? And then, ready for any questions?
So that event is in the evening, right?
It is in the evening. It is at 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock?
6 to 8.
Oh, I see it there. Thank you.
Could you email that to us?
Yes.
All right, any other questions from the board? Okay, very good. Then, at this point in time, we're going to be going into the executive session. 5.a, the Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. Number 1, Section 551.087, the economic development negotiations regarding Project Lion. Number 2, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding the performance agreement with Project Fiesta. Number 3, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding the performance agreement with Mocha Ventures Nebraska LLC. And at the end, the Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will reconvene into open session to discuss, consider, and/or take any action necessarily related to the executive session noted herein. It is now 5:25 p.m. Okay, it is now 6:11 on June the 17th. We are going to reconvene back into open session to discuss, consider, and/or take any action necessary related to the executive session noted herein.
Chair, I make a motion to direct staff to negotiate and finalize a sales agreement with Electric Lion. Execute.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Very good. All right. Now we will entertain a motion to get out of here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.